This week, as I went through all of the recommendations, I was pretty hard on myself. I would read my friends' recommendations and feel that I was failing at most of them. It was a little overwhelming. I want to share some of the things I've learned by studying one of the most famous mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationships in the world.
I'm Becky Brower, and I'm a Sendy mom. Welcome to the Sendy Mom Podcast.
Before I begin, I want to remind you that I am working on a huge clothing drive for children in the Philippines. I'm going to be collecting clothing, shoes, and new underwear and new socks until October 31st, 2025. I would love to send Trixie from Rise and Rebuild a huge shipment for the 7,000 kids she feeds every day. She will be distributing the donations, and the shipping will be handled by Julie Hess. Julie has been organizing shipments to missionaries in the Philippines for many years now, and she has contacts to make shipments really smooth. On top of that, Rise and Rebuild has pledged to cover all of the shipping costs, so I just need the donations. If you don't have kids' clothing, consider giving a monetary donation. I've already made one run to Walmart to get some underwear and socks, and I'd love to go more. The kids in the program are required to bring their own dishes for serving as well. Most of them have a real difficult time providing a plate and utensils for themselves. So any extra donations I have will be spent on dishes. You can send it by Venmo to @Becky_Brower, and Brower is BROUWER. I will also include my address and Julie's address in the show notes, so you can drop it off to me or send it straight to Julie. If anyone will be making a trip to Portland at the beginning of November and have a little room, that will help us to get the donations ready to be shipped. I haven't done a spotlight for a little while. Life has been really hectic and I can barely get an episode out every other week, but I've really been thinking a lot about in-laws after talking to Caitlin last week, and I wanted to put a few thoughts down to remember. I really do not pretend to be an expert at this. I am still learning, and maybe you are too. So this week has been really mind-blowing for me. When I started editing my episode last week with my daughter-in-law, Caitlin Brower, I considered myself a pretty good mother-in-law. I had always felt like I was really careful with not criticizing. I tried to treat my son's family as their own unit without becoming intrusive. Even with the best relationships, though, we learned that we can be better and that it's a journey. I've learned a ton about being a better mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law by asking friends and family what helps these relationships the most. I'll soon be adding another wonderful daughter-in-law to our family as my third son just proposed to his sweet girlfriend. We love her. We are so excited to celebrate Kyle and Savvy in this new family that they are building. I am going to get a lot of practice as being a mother-in-law because I have 5 boys and 1 daughter, and we love adding to our family. I want to share some of the things I've learned by studying one of the most famous mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationships in the world, Ruth and Naomi. But before we get to their story, I want to zoom out and look at how different cultures have viewed marriage, especially the role of a wife in her husband's family. In many traditional cultures today, places like India, parts of Africa, and across Asia, it's expected that when a woman marries, she'll move in with her husband's family. She's not just joining a new household, she's stepping into a set of expectations, caring for her in-laws, helping with the daily life, honoring family traditions, sometimes even learning new languages or customs. In many of these cultures, the mother-in-law is a central figure in the home. She may have a say in decisions, meals, child rearing, and how the household is run. This can be a bond, but it can also be a tension point. Family traditions, expectations, and roles were clearly defined, and it was often the wife who did the adapting to her husband's world. I am really grateful that women have more power and autonomy now. We're moving to what I believe God truly wanted for Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, to be helps meet for each other. There is a reason Eve was created from a rib bone and not from the head or the foot. God wanted to make sure men and women knew they were equal equal in value. To be meet means to be equal for each other. And men and women were meant to help one another and to be one. In the Bible, we are taught that a man should leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. That means to be one. It's almost like grafting two people to be one. Although this is not always possible because people have agency, if you are able to have this kind of bond with your spouse, you are more powerful than you are alone. As the parents of the man and woman that is now becoming one, it will help to realize this natural progression and to celebrate the beginning of a new family unit rather than try to sabotage that union by holding on to your son or daughter. In ancient Israel, marriage meant being grafted into the husband's family line. The household wasn't just a home, it was the center of identity, inheritance, and survival. It was really meant to protect the women who at the time had no property rights or privileges. Israelite society was built on patriarchy, where the father was the head of the household. Men held political, social, and religious leadership roles. The society was also patrilineal, which means inheritance was passed from father to son. Leadership roles also passed in this way. This is a very familiar pattern throughout history. Israelites were also organized patrilocally. This means that wives who married would be taken from their homes and located in the home of their father-in-law. This is just what happened to Ruth and Orpah from Moab when they married into Elimelech's family. So here's the story. A famine hits Bethlehem, and Elimelech, Naomi, and their two sons, Mahalon and Chilion, moved to Moab, which is a foreign land. Naomi's husband dies, and then her two sons marry Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. But then tragedy strikes again. Both sons die, leaving Naomi and her daughters-in-law widowed. Naomi releases her daughters-in-law from the expectation to stay with her. When Ruth insists on going with her, Naomi highlights another tradition from Israelite culture, a levirate marriage. Traditionally, if a woman's husband dies before having a child, the brother or near kinsman of the family would have the responsibility of marrying his brother's wife and producing an heir for his brother. Naomi is old and without a husband. She tells Ruth that she is unlikely to produce another son for Ruth to marry and that she should just go home. Orpah decides to return to her people, but Ruth stays. She turns to Naomi and says, "Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God." Ruth chooses to leave country, her family, her language, and her gods. She's choosing a bitter, grieving mother-in-law as her companion on an uncertain road. No security, no promise of a husband, no future, except Naomi. Naomi herself is crushed by grief. She even changes her name to Mara, which means bitter. And yet, Ruth goes with her anyway. Later, by some series of coincidences, the destitute Ruth ends up gleaning corn from a field belonging to Boaz, who is a near kinsman to Naomi. She shows her kindness and a departure from custom by serving Ruth a meal. Ruth asks Naomi for counsel. Naomi, recognizing her daughter-in-law's escape from a life of poverty, advises her in a risky move to lie at the feet of Boaz, possibly marring her reputation. Boaz treats her with kindness and arranges to marry her after consulting with another man who had legal right to her. King David was born as the great-grandson of Boaz and Ruth. And 14 or so generations later, Jesus Christ was born. We don't get every detail of their years together in Moab, but something must have been there between them. For Ruth to trust Naomi enough to leave everything behind, Naomi must have listened to her, spoken kindly to her, offered wisdom, shared her faith. Ruth must have felt seen and valued. Naomi, in her grief, didn't push Ruth away. She accepted her loyalty, her companionship, and later her help and initiative in rebuilding their lives. That trust didn't appear out of nowhere. It grew in the daily, ordinary moments. And that's often what healthy in-law relationships look like today, too. Not perfect people, but two people willing to listen, to stay connected, and to show up for each other, even in hard seasons. In relationships, we are here to complete each other, not compete with each other. Naomi and Ruth loved each other and helped each other. Naomi was too old and feeble to glean, so Ruth lovingly took that responsibility in order to feed them both. Ruth did not have the family connections that Naomi did. Naomi was able to help Ruth secure a husband and protection and later a child. Most of us don't live in the same house with our in-laws anymore, but the relationship between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law can still be tender and tricky. In preparing for this episode, I asked several friends and family members what their best advice was for good relationships between daughters and mothers-in-law. I also read a couple of books that are mentioned in the show notes for further information about being a good in-law. So here are 5 practical ways to build trust and love so that you can be mothers and daughters in love and not just in law. So first, choose love over criticism. Criticism never motivates people to change. It's so easy to replay past hurts in our minds, things someone said at a family gathering, a holiday that went wrong, a miscommunication that still stings, but holding on to those moments keeps the relationship stuck. When I'm having a difficult time with any relationship, I find it helpful to pray for the person I'm struggling with. If you aren't religious, just try thinking of that person and all of their good traits. Think about what they do well or things they are interested in or passionate about, including your son. Say it out loud. Appreciation softens hearts where criticism hardens them. Second, honor autonomy and boundaries. One of the hardest shifts for parents is truly letting go when your child gets married, but it's essential. This is all part of the normal progression of families. Don't offer advice unless it's asked for. Let the couple make their own decisions, even if you do things differently. Be their cheerleader, not their coach. And for daughters-in-law, honoring your mother-in-law's role and showing respect, especially in front of your spouse and children, builds trust. Third, build trust by communicating frequently. Healthy communication isn't about fixing, it's about connecting. You'll need to make a conscious effort to communicate with your in-laws in the way they want to communicate. Everyone communicates love in different ways. You can communicate in the way you like to receive love, but recognize that your in-law may communicate love in a different way. This goes with any relationship. I've been married for 30 years, and just the other day, I had kind of a mind-blowing experience. I was telling my husband that when we were first married, I felt that he didn't love me as much as my dad loved my mom because my husband really never praised me very much in public. My dad loves to tell people how much my mom means to him. He feels honored to be her husband. He feels like he married up. This is beautiful. My dad's love language is words of affirmation. As I was telling Robert about this, it occurred to me that my husband is loyal. He loves to take care of us and protect us. He loves to spend quality time with me and with the kids. He loves hugging and kissing me. He's been showing me love in his way all of this time, and I didn't even realize it or appreciate it. So I'm going to try to notice it more now and show him love in the way he shows me love. It works the same way with your in-laws. They will show and perceive love differently than you do. Pay attention. If they do something that doesn't communicate love to you, try to see it from their point of view. Be curious about your in-laws and ask questions. Take a genuine interest in her life. Developing this strong relationship might encourage her to share details of her life where she feels vulnerable. This can be a difficult place to be in. Let her know that she is safe. Don't pry. If you need to, just sit with her. Don't give any advice and just tell her you love her. Never gossip and never use it against her. Communication comes from the word communion. When we are communing, we are seeking to be one with someone. You can only do that if you are open to seeing another person without judgment or expectation. Fourth, communicate expectations. So many conflicts happen not because of big offenses, but because of unspoken expectations. Holiday visits, family traditions, these can be really tender spots. Have the conversation before the conflict. Ask what matters to them. Be willing to compromise and remind yourself they are forming their own family unit. That's healthy and good. Don't make unreasonable demands for attention. Traditions around holidays and family gatherings can be especially difficult. Your perfect vacation or holiday tradition won't necessarily be the same as your in-laws. Make sure to ask what her ideal would be and try to incorporate her ideas into the plans, as well as allow children to make different choices about how to use their time. Communicating expectations is important in regards to giving gifts as well. If you want to help your children or parents with gifts of money or time, do it without the expectation of anything in return. Be very careful. If you choose to support your children or parents financially, you may be setting yourself up for resentment in the future. Those gifts may be seen by whoever you give it to as a necessary part of their subsistence, and opinions about how they spend their money will likely be seen as interference. In a story shared in Related by Chance, Family by Choice by Deb DeArmond, a mother and father decided to help their son and his wife when they were in college. After college, it was also difficult, and so the checks kept coming. The checks were expected every month, even when the children both had good jobs and were going on vacations and buying cars. This caused a lot of friction with the relationship. The parents felt that they had a right to counsel their children on budgeting and finances, and the children felt that they were being mistreated and not trusted with too much advice on their finances. Success happens when a person recognizes and takes advantage of the opportunities given them, or they make opportunities for themselves. If your children are given too much support, they will be robbed of the growth that only happens from struggle. Learning those lessons on their own or with a partner is more valuable than any monetary gift you can give your child. Love costs nothing, but gives everything. There is definitely a place for generosity, but never give it with strings attached, and consider how the gift might affect your children's or parents' ability to care for themselves. Number 5, truly seeing another person. Barbara Rioch writes, God changes your relationship with her by changing you. You have no control over another person, but God can change you. And when your posture shifts from defensiveness to grace, from resentment to curiosity, everything else begins to soften too. Seeing another person includes listening with curiosity. It is seeing that person in tenderness, affection, and somebody worthy of your full attention. Look for why your son decided to marry her. You love your son and he must see something in her. Look for it. Your husband loves his mother. If you are a daughter-in-law, find the things that your son loves about his mother. I asked some friends and family what they've learned about being a good mother-in-law or daughter-in-law. Here are a few of their thoughts. Dorothy said, tell them early to call you whatever name they are comfortable with. Some of mine call me Mom and others call me Dorothy. I tell them they are invited to everything. And if they can't make it or don't want to, it is just fine. Just do what works for them and their families. She also said, I sort of ignore some of their stuff that gives me pause. Ignoring is a great way to keep a good relationship. Karen said, this is my daughter-in-law's mother, Karen. She said, see them as daughters of God, find common interests, never criticize, give genuine compliments, be her cheerleader. And Caitlin, my daughter-in-law, said, when a mother-in-law offers to help clean, it can feel like judgment. Instead, ask how you can help. Don't give unsolicited advice. Giving unsolicited advice is often seen as trying to interfere in the choices of the couple. Do your best to honor their rules. Some of these might be no screen time or no sugary drinks. Remember that they are being parents for the first time and they need to learn this on their own. My friend Michelle said, have patience, understanding, and support as we grow and learn how to be adults and parents. Allot time and space as we create our own traditions and family values. Support decisions made and be there and empathetic as challenges arrive. These aren't complicated strategies. They're small, everyday choices to show kindness and respect, and that's where trust grows. Ruth and Naomi's story is extraordinary. It began with loss and bitterness, but it grew into a legacy of love and redemption. Ruth became the great grandmother of King David, and through her, part of the lineage of Jesus. It's a reminder that God can work through even the most fragile and complicated family dynamics. This week, as I went through all of the recommendations, I was pretty hard on myself. I would read my friends' recommendations and feel that I was failing at most of them. It was a little overwhelming. I finally decided that I couldn't do all of them, but that I could choose one to work on. I felt that I could work on being kind. I don't think I'm a mean person, but I definitely say or think unkind thoughts. Years ago, I had some of the same goals. I wanted to be more kind. My first thought was that I should work on saying more kind things. That seemed a little impersonal, so I decided instead that I should have a goal to think kind thoughts. It actually really changed how I looked at all of my relationships. If you are thinking kind thoughts, you won't say things that are unkind. You won't be selfish or thoughtless or judgmental or jealous. That is one small step that might not only help you to feel better about all of your relationships, but it might heal some broken relationships as well. Isn't it wonderful that we can change whenever we want to? Your relationship with your in-law is not finished. You are not finished, and neither is your in-law. We all have things to learn, and if we can continue to focus on seeing each other more clearly, we won't waste any more time. If your relationship with your in-law isn't what you wish it were, start with small steps. Build trust through consistent, loving communication, have kind thoughts, clarify your expectations, choose to see, truly listen, and to love, and soften your heart and avoid becoming offended. If this conversation encouraged you, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or leave a review. And if you have a story about your own in-law relationship, good or hard, I'd love to hear it. You can message me on Instagram at sendy.mom or through the website sendymom.com. So thank you for joining me today for this spotlight on Ruth and Naomi. And until next time, let's keep taking courageous steps, even in our families, and actually, especially in our families.
In the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, do something every day that scares you.